You open your eyes when your body decides it's time. No buzzing alarm, no calendar alert. No destination waiting for you. You rise, stretch your arms, and wonder about one thing: what will I do today? For almost all of human existence, this wasn't imagination. This was reality every sunrise. For about 300,000 years, the answer looked completely different from your current life. People today pour roughly 90,000 hours into employment across their lifetime. That's about 1/3 of every waking moment, tied to a job. Yet for most of human history, employment wasn't even a concept. There were no paychecks, no managers, no promotions to chase. So how did people actually fill their hours? Let's begin with solid facts. Back in 1963, researcher Richard Lee carried out a study that transformed our view of ancient living. He followed the daily patterns of the Dobe Jew Honsi in Botswana. Among the last communities living similarly to pre-farming humans, he discovered adults needed roughly 2.5 days weekly to find food, about 17 hours total. Everything else was theirs to enjoy, and this pattern repeats wherever researchers look. The Hadza of Tanzania, the Achia of Paraguay, the Marchu of Australia. Different lands, different climates, same finding: 15 to 20 hours weekly devoted to staying alive. For perspective, you likely work double that. Some might object, but those are present-day groups. How do we know ancient people lived identically? Valid concern, and bones provide the answer. When scientists compare remains of hunter-gatherers against early farming communities, the contrast shocks. Agricultural people were shorter. Their skeletons reveal malnutrition. Their teeth decayed from grain, heavy eating. Their spines developed arthritis from repetitive strain. They passed away earlier. Hunter-gatherer remains show greater height, stronger frames, healthier teeth, less joint wear. Their bones narrate a clear tale. They performed less repetitive physical toil, not more. Yet the most striking proof emerges from something archaeologists uncovered that shouldn't appear if existence was endless struggle. Creative expression. In 1994, explorers found Chauvet Cave in southern France. Within were images painted approximately 30,000 years ago: horses, lions, rhinos drawn with depth, shadow, and motion. These weren't primitive sketches. This was advanced artwork demanding ability. Preparation. Crucially, hours. Somebody invested long stretches, perhaps multiple days deep underground by torchlight, painting creatures on stone. Not for sustenance, not for eating. For aesthetics, for significance. For purpose beyond survival. At Blombos Cave in South Africa, researchers discovered shell beads 100,000 years old. Tiny perforations drilled through seashells, obviously intended for stringing as adornment. The closest ocean lay 20 kilometers distant. Someone journeyed 40 kilometers round trip merely to gather shells, invested hours, meticulously boring holes with stone implements simply to appear attractive. In 2008, scientists uncovered a 40,000-year-old flute carved from vulture bone in Germany. 5-finger holes, evenly placed. Its creator understood melody. They grasped musical tones. And they dedicated substantial effort to crafting it. Not for catching prey, not for protection, but for song. These aren't rare exceptions. Across Europe, Africa, Asia, archaeological locations from 100,000 years onward overflow with proof of ornamental objects. Carefully fashioned implements, far more detailed than survival required pieces, demanding extended concentrated effort with zero immediate practical payoff. This occupied people's time when they weren't finding meals. They invented, they adorned, they crafted beauty. So let's rebuild a typical day. You roast near sunrise. Yesterday's fire still glows faintly. Someone tosses on wood. You consume leftover meat or fish from prior days. Perhaps some nuts or fruits gathered earlier. Morning eating is communal. Folks chat, they loosely arrange the day ahead. Not from obligation. Conversation is simply what humans do. Around mid-morning, a small band may depart to hunt, collect, but here's the essential point. You don't venture out daily. If the hunt succeeded, 2 days passed. Provisions remain. You might never leave camp. You could spend the morning improving equipment, honing a spear, plating a container, treating an animal's skin until soft. Functional. This differs from modern employment. No timepiece, no overseer. You pursue it because capability counts. Mastery gains admiration. Crafting well belongs to being human. When hunting occurs, it isn't the panicked pursuit films depict. Humans are endurance predators. We trail creatures at steady pace for extended periods until heat overcomes them. We're uniquely equipped for this. We perspire, control body warmth while moving. Most creatures cannot, so we outlast them. The pursuit might consume 3 to 6 hours, travel included. Then the catch returns and gets divided. Everyone feeds, and by early afternoon, the active portion essentially concludes. What follows baffles modern minds most. Nothing and everything simultaneously. People unwind, they settle in shade and converse. They engage with youngsters. They groom companions, sorting through hair. Strengthening connections, they fashion jewelry from shells, beads, or animal teeth. They etch patterns into bone or rock. They doze. Anthropologist James Sussman recorded that among the Ju-Yuansi, adults devote roughly 6 hours daily to what he termed social time. Not laboring, not resting, simply being among others. Speaking, chuckling, sharing humor in a realm without currency. Law enforcement, written agreements. Your continuation hinges entirely on relationships. If others dislike you, they needn't share meals when you're starving. So you pour enormous energy into those ties. Not it yields products. It's how people remain human. Then dusk arrives and something extraordinary unfolds. In 2014, anthropologist Polly Wiesner examined hundreds of hours of recorded discussions among the Ju-Yuansi. Daytime talk remained practical. Who spotted animal traces where? Which vegetation ripened for picking? Grievances about someone hoarding unfairly. Nighttime around flames. 81% of dialogue shifted to narratives. Legends explaining world's origin. Stories of ancestors accomplishing impossible feats. Jokes provoking universal laughter. Adventures from distant places. Wiesner proposed this represents where human culture truly originated. Deities, spirits, history, tomorrow, concepts you only contemplate when hunger vanishes. Safety surrounds you and people didn't slumber continuously as you do now. Historical accounts from medieval Europe. Sleep research from the 1990s confirm that. Before artificial illumination, humans slept in 2 segments. Initial rest lasting roughly 4 hours, waking for 1 to 2 hours in total darkness, followed by second rest of another 4 hours. So here's the complete daily picture. About 4 to 6 hours securing nourishment or crafting tools. About 6 hours in social engagement, tale sharing, grooming. Playing. About 8 hours sleeping in 2 distinct phases. The remainder spent sitting, observing, cloud watching. Doing nothing specific, existing without requiring productivity to justify your presence. Then, roughly 10,000 years ago, transformation struck. Humans in the Fertile Crescent began sowing seeds. Taming animals, farming became a snare. Once cultivation starts, it feeds larger groups. Larger groups demand greater harvests. Greater harvests require expanded farming. Within generations, populations surged. Reversal became impossible. Too many mouths existed to survive through foraging. You were trapped, and agriculture demanded far heavier toil. Plowing, sowing, weeding, reaping, storing, guarding crops against creatures. Invaders. Skeletal evidence leaves no doubt. Early cultivators worked harder. Yet poorer perished sooner than the foragers preceding them. Yet populations kept expanding. With bigger communities came specialists. Tool crafters, potters, weavers, innovators, fighters, holy leaders, organizers, eventually positions. Employment. The notion that your hours belonged to another in exchange for supplies. By civilization's rise, the original human way had vanished, replaced by timetables, duties. The necessity of laboring most waking hours, merely to survive within systems we constructed. Today, you invest 90,000 hours working. Your predecessors invested far fewer. You sleep in one stretch. Label waking at 2 in the morning as a disorder. They slept in 2 phases. Used middle hours for contemplation. You spend existence pursuing mirages of importance. Recognition, riches. Achievement by criteria society manufactured. They woke each dawn already liberated. Already sufficient, already peaceful, with nothing to demonstrate to anyone. They didn't need to achieve success. They were already experiencing the existence you're laboring your whole life to eventually reach. You create art if moments remain after employment. They created art because moments existed. And that's what humans naturally do. We haven't evolved into another species. Yet we live differently from how humans existed for 99% of our timeline that we might as well be alien. We exchange liberty for food stability, leisure for population expansion, hours for output.